I am this close to getting the whiteboard. Well, hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I am the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 258. And I hope you guys are having a good day. So, it is Thursday, January the 15th. Do you know where your fourth quarter 2005 taxes are? I know where mine are, because I wrote a check this week and sent it in the little mail, because after death, the only thing you can trust in life is taxes. So, not that I'm bitter, okay? I just really think everybody in America should, at a minimum, have to file quarterly. One of the biggest rackets the federal government ever pulled on us was the fact that for you normies out there, you W-2 cubicle dwellers, you don't actually see your taxes because it's on that stub that you get that you never read, because it's all direct deposited. So you don't actually know how much you're paying at any one time. Myself, I get to calculate it every 3 months, which means when I calculate every 3 months, I can sit there and go, what exactly am I getting for this? I know. Don't give me that shit about roads. Okay. The ones with the potholes? Yeah. Okay. So anyways, I don't even know why I got started on that thing. It's just, like I said, sometimes I'm as surprised what comes out of my mouth as you guys are. So you at least get to separate yourself from it. Oh, I just heard that. I didn't say it, So, but hold on for just a second. My phone's flashing at me over here. So here we are, starting in the new year. Yes, just exactly as I was going to say. Everything just picked the hell up, and things are getting really busy. Had a nice little semi-listing appointment with a lovely lady last night from St. George, Utah, who's selling a rental property down here, and her dogs demanded that I pet them, and we shared gardening tips, and she gave me some homemade kombucha. Nice lady. We'll see if she actually goes with us over here. She was very, very surprised at when we were discussing how much Ray gets paid. She was like, but real estate prices have gone up. I'm like, yes, ma'am, they have. She goes, well, I thought the costs for the real estate agents would go down. I was like, well, how much did you think they would go down? And she's like, well, I was thinking, that when I bought this house, back in 2000, the real estate agent, at the whole thing, he only, got paid about $3,000. I'm like, yeah, man, back in 2000, $3,000 was a lot of money, but there's been a lot of price increase in everything nowadays. And even then, because of the new legal agreements, since you're not actually going to be paying for the buyer's agent as a seller, we've reduced the rate, charge to you from 60% to 3%. So you already got a 50% discount. So, yeah, very, very poor negotiating tactics on her part, because she, God bless her for trying. God bless amateurs who are coming in. They're always trying to, think they can negotiate because they think they're in some sort of Indian bazaar and they can just run their clothes and go, you're starving my children. So that's not how it works, kids. It's really not how it works. It's like, if I suddenly want to get some concessions on Greenland, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lead with, I think we're going to invade Greenland. Oh, no, you can't do that. Okay, well, these are what we want. So short of invasion, how do we get what we want? So that's what happens when you elect a real estate guy. Sorry, that's just how we all think, It's like we're going to start with the big ask, all right? Because you can't ask for more after you've already made your initial ask. Although I did hear this really, really funny story. Secretary of Commerce was on one of those long form interviews, and I'm talking, it was like 2 hours worth of talking and stuff. And the reason why you don't hear these things is because your average talking head on the television shows you people watch, they can't, their stream of, their attention span doesn't last 2.5 hours, and they run out of questions to ask that their producers, who are usually smarter than them, have written for them to ask, with all potential follow-up questions depending on it. So your average news employee's conversation breaks down in about 10 minutes. They can't go any farther than that. But if you get somebody in a long form who can actually do a long form interview, you learn all sorts of really, really cool things. One of which was the tariff negotiations with India. And India was supposed to be one of the first countries that we were going to get an agreement with. And the White House, apparently during the tariff negotiations, had signaled to everybody, the people who agree first get the best deals. And once we've agreed to it, made an agreement with the country, that's the new floor. You don't get better than that no matter who you are. So come on, one, come all, be the first 5 people through the door and you can get the free 50% discount. India decided to play FF games. Right? India decided they were on track. They had a understanding, okay, this is what we're going to formalize. We've come to it. Let's get it all written up. And they were supposed to call on Friday. And Friday came and went. And for some reason, India wasn't returning the phone calls. So they moved on. And they signed an agreement with like Indonesia or something like that. Maybe it was Vietnam. All right. And India suddenly pops in and goes, oh, well, we're ready to sign. And the response was, yeah, we got to go back to the drawing boards. No, we had an agreement. We had an agreement Friday. Then you decided to blow us off. This is the new, we've moved on since then, and we can't give you a better deal than Indonesia because Indonesia decided to sign with us. So I had this happen once with a real estate agent way, way back in the day where one unit, one condo, we had 3 separate offers. And they're almost all identical. And I'm calling these agents up and I say, I just want to go over your offer. We're on a multiple and we want to use our escrow officer because it's a 1031 exchange. And the guy no, you don't need to use your girl. My person that we put on there, they do 1031s. They're awesome. You'll love them, So yeah, that's a non-negotiable. Okay. So I went back to my client and I said, do they say that, using your escrow officer is non-negotiable? And he said, okay, shit can that one. So we threw the offer out. All right. Accepted one of the offer and we're off to the races. Sure enough, asshole calls me up 2 days. Ray, I've been waiting for your call on, what did your client think about our counter? You said that you weren't, meeting our escrow. Yeah. That was you hit the circular filing bin as soon as you said that. I expressed that. Well, we could have counted. Like, no, you made your point. You said that was a non-negotiable. You were gone. We weren't going to make a concession to overcome your non-negotiable. When you say non-negotiable, it's off the fucking table. So. Anyways, he was one of those dude bros, we get him out of Scottsdale, the $30,000 millionaires driving the leased BMW, they're all like, hey, what do we got to do to get the deal done? Those guys. You've heard me complain about those guys before. And I teach my agents about those guys. And it's funny because when I'm teaching guy agents, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But any of my female agents, they all instantly know that guy. All right. So, gentlemen, you got to change your approach. It's not getting where you think it's getting. Which brings us around to the topic of today, branding, and don't call yourself an agent. Don't call yourself a salesperson. All right. The dude bros have negative reputation. I can prove to you that dude bros have a negative reputation because as soon as I say it, you instantly know who I'm talking about. That's a meme. That is that brand. Okay. It's not formalized in any term. I call them dude bros, but what's great about that term is that you instantly know who I'm talking about. And I've been saying it for years. And the reason why that we're talking about this today is because there's an Inman article about this. Quit calling yourself a sales agent or just a sales agent. Quit calling yourself a realtor. All right. It's a negative reputation brand. The brand is burned. It's dead. It's gone. You might as well call yourself a national socialist. Okay. Especially don't call yourself a German national socialist. All right. And don't join any workers' parties made up of German National Socialists. It's not what you think it is, kids. Actually, the funny thing, it is exactly what you think it is. All right, but we don't teach history anymore in school. We teach indoctrination. But that's a whole different rant into itself. Anyways, long story short, when you were out there interacting, because, realtors and sales agents, whatever else you want to call yourself, has such a negative connotation to it. People are fumbling around. And this article was suggest you should call yourself a fiduciary. You should call yourself an advisor. You should call yourself a this. You should call yourself a that. All right. Anything but realtor. And I agree with that. I 100% wholeheartedly endorse that statement. All right. The National Association has killed the brand. The brand is dead. All right. There are reasons why people are coming up and moving around that. And I completely blame leadership on that. All right. And if they want to come out and say, like, yeah, let's have this public conversation. All right. Let's discuss what you guys have done to destroy our brand, going all the way back to American Family. All right. And why you decided to. I was watching something last night. It was Fallout. And they have, on an episode, season 2, episode 3, they're having a scene in a Veterans of Foreign Wars meeting. And they have a big Veterans of Foreign Wars, sign up behind the speaker. And the veterans are all being obnoxious, stereotypical veterans and stuff like that. And I'm like thinking to myself going, did the VFW sign off on this? Who thought that was a good idea? All right. Probably didn't even recognize it because another organization that does not work well enough to defend their brand. So, case in point, I'm at a VFW meeting last week. All right. Big state one. And I wind up out in the smoke pit with all the cool kids. And we're out there basically doing a fire watch. We got the hotel that we're at had one of those big gas fires. And we're all out there smoking and joking and having a good time. And I've realized everybody out there is under the age of 60. All the old timers are inside, all right, watching the speeches. We're all out there just having a good time and doing some camaraderie. And I mentioned an ad campaign run by the American Legion. Every one of those guys had seen it. Every one of those guys, the target audience that the VFW is supposed to be recruiting out of, knew the American Legion ad campaign. I've yet to see one person over the age of 65 who sees it, and the ones that I've shown it to, they don't get it. All right? Branding issue. Okay. All right. Trying to convince people that your average consumer, your average person out there, thinks of the VFW as a smoke-filled hall with a whole bunch of crotchety old guys telling war stories about how they caught the clap in Fubai. That's what they think the VFW is. And the VFW is not that anymore. All right? I am occasionally the oldest person in the room. I'm still working through that trauma. All right? But I like to think I'm not a crotchety old guy yet, and I definitely never caught the clap in Fubai. All right? So I don't think I've ever, wow, TMI, right? So, yeah, this is the only real estate channel over there where I openly discuss venereal diseases, all right? Because I'm keeping it real. That's my brand. All right, too shocking for you, real estate. Okay, so let's see how 2026 plays out. There is a lawsuit coming out that they are trying to overturn the great settlement of 2025 where we're going to do buyer-broker agreements. And we will see how that one plays out because it could literally remove that entire thing off the board. Like, it never happened. And then we're all stumbling around still trying to figure out what we're doing with buyer-broker agreements and everything. So other big ticket news that you really got to watch, it all comes down to whether or not the Supreme Court, what direction they rule on the tariffs. And if you suddenly see, this is the word that's coming down, if you see, and it's going to be Chief Justice Roberts, all right, I'm really getting the vibe that he's going to try to do Roberts-y things on this. If he somehow writes in there that Trump doesn't have the right to negotiate these tariffs with other countries and all the tariffs are now null and void, you are going to see interest rates go through the roof. Across the board. And I find it really interesting that Trump is trying to get out there and trying to make it mandatory that your credit card interest rates can't go above 10%. That almost sounds like he thinks he's going to lose because he's trying to get some cushioning in there, because interest rates are going to go through the roof. Because interest rates right now are driven by our colossal freaking debt, right? And that annual deficit that adds to that debt, that's the reason why interest rates are up so high. Tariffs are the first very, very small thing we've seen since forever that is actually trying to drive down that debt. All right. And you can almost track it, like when somebody writes an article saying, hey, yeah, this tariff thing is going to go through. Interest rates start coming down, right? Because why? Because interest rates have to look out for this nasty little beast called inflation. Inflation is currently run right now because of our huge, colossal debt. Now, we have some options on this, right? One of them, hey, why don't we just raise taxes? I am very sympathetic to that argument. That's why they kicked me out of the Libertarian Party, right? I personally would like to see spending cut. There's a really nasty meme floating around out on the right side of the internets talking about how we spend $1.5 trillion a year just in waste and fraud. And if we can just get that under control, we would be right size and we would not be hemorrhaging money. I don't see the numbers there. They've never shown me where that number came from, and I don't trust anybody who just tells me a number. It's like, okay, show me your work. It's ironic because I used to hate when teachers do, oh, you need to show your work, Ray. But did I get the right answer? Well, yeah, but you didn't show the work, all right? But in this case, I want to see the work because I don't think it's 1.5. I think it might be 1.5 over a decade, right? Which is still a substantial amount of money, at least to me. But I don't think it's 1.5 a year. Prove me wrong, please. Somebody come up with that and say, show me the numbers. Like, well, this is how much we spent on this, and this is how much is estimated to be, fraud and expense and new article. Maryland. All right, they have a $700 million unemployment fraud that they've uncovered in Maryland. All right, people filing for unemployment that they don't actually qualify for unemployment on, or they're working and still collecting unemployment or whatever. All right, how much of this? And we've seen. I mean, we just saw the governor of Minnesota state that he can't run for re-election because he's up to his eyeballs in whatever is going on in that. So we need to get that kind of spending under control. Hopefully soon. We, much like conversation I had with a bunch of young guys around the smoke pit at the VFW, we can't wait for these old guys to get out of the way. All right. This guy actually did the math. Lord help them. IT people should not be in the VFW because they use numbers that, people don't get. He's like, this is how many members we have. This is how many we recruit every year. This is how many we lose every year. In year 5, we cease to exist. Sounds good. He ran the chart. He brought it in, did the big presentation. Hey, guys, this is the numbers. The response of his membership was, well, I'll be dead by then. These are the reasons why because my first response would have been, will you hurry up? So we had this geezer at new guy. His name's Bob. He's out of Oklahoma. He used to be the state commander. And I'm giving my legislative report. He says, yeah, I got a question for the legislative. I'm like, sure. What's your question, Bob? Why doesn't Arizona give free hunting and fishing license to veterans with disabilities like they do in Oklahoma? How am I supposed to answer that question? And unfortunately, the mouth opened before the brain engaged. And my first words out of my mouth was, because we have too many Democrats. I shouldn't have said that. That's probably not even true. Okay, but it was funny. People laughed. 2 or 3 people went, I'm like, yeah, I'm really trying to be neutral in this place. But you ask me a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid answer. So, and this is what happens when I don't have anything to talk about, to be honest with you. You just get ramblings for a while. So at least 20 minutes worth of rambling. So numbers are still recovering. That's part of the reason why I don't want to get into the numbers, because we're still recovering over that whole everything coming off the market. Nobody shopping around. Although buyers are picking up like mad for that first week. Let me show you what we got going on here. All right. Okay, these are the numbers for January 14th, 2026. Actives this week are 22,961. That's 649 new listings, up from last week. Our new listings are 2,612, up 802. This is a combination of expireds coming back and brand new listings because people want to sell this year. Contracts are 2,078, up 457. Our closings were 2,078 there. That is probably a typo on my part. It's been known to happen. Coming soon to an MLS near you is 728 new listings. Our supply has dropped. Risen to 93.8. Our demand has dropped a little bit to 83.6, giving us an 89.1. Expect this to take a week or two to really, really solidify. Going to our regional areas and our cities and townships, we have, all right, Fountain Hills is still leading the pack, 192.4. They're up 1. And then in the sellers markets are Fountain Hills, Chandler, Gilbert, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Cave Creek, Mesa, Tempe, all right, and Glendale. Remember, Glendale was balanced this time last month, and now they're there. Paradise Valley, the rich people don't care. They're actually, remember when Paradise Valley used to be in the top 1, top 2? All right, now they are just barely squeaking in as a seller's market, down 5%. All right, and then we have our balances, Peoria and Avondale. All right. And then at the bottom, we have Goodyear, Santan Valley, Surprise, Queen Creek, Buckeye, and Maricopa. These are all your buyer's market. Okay. But they are all rising. Our greatest rising area is tied between Gilbert and Phoenix, and our biggest loser is Paradise Valley. So expect these numbers to all sort of work their way out in the next week or two until we balance. But applications are up, listings are up. People, we're coming into the spring fling. Everything's getting really exciting over here. We're going to be really, really busy. And the agents that were ready to go, have their business models and they're hitting the ground running, are profiting from it. The ones who are sitting there going, oh, I'm going to wait until next month before I actually start working on stuff, well, they're going to be playing catch up for the rest of the year. Same thing as always, all right? Fail to plan to fail. I don't know how many times I need to tell you guys that. So, new little widget for me to play around with. I'm a fidgeter. I like to fidget. Always got to have something in my hand. I should have both hands above the table when I say something like that. So, both hands above the table. Both hands above the table when you watch children and pets around the water. Both hands around the table on your steering wheel, preferably, before you drive into anything flooded, which you're not going to do. Right? Call your mom, and we're not even going there. Okay, and keep working your circles, guys, now more than ever. All right, you guys have a great weekend, and like, share, and subscribe. I hate having to say that, but apparently it's something I need to say at least once or twice. They got little animations that can pop up, it's like a little picture, clicking the button and whatnot. And especially share the ones where I actually say something good. Maybe not this one, although this is the kind of episodes I call a screener, because if you can't handle this kind of episode, you definitely can't handle being in the car with me for 2 or 3 weekends. And I will talk to you guys all later.